pat yourself on the back because you are right here, right now, for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose podcast, where together we will empower ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose. How you doing this morning, Jared?
I've been better, young Ollie. I've been better, man. This cold just keeps coming back on me. Every time I feel like I'm done, I go to a wrestling tournament, spend all weekend in a gym, and it comes back worse.
Tis the season, man. Tis the season.
Yeah, so that's why we're not in the same room today, trying to keep you from getting sick before your big fight this weekend.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm feeling fantastic. I had a little sickness this past weekend. I think just from really hard training, putting the body through a lot, but feeling amazing today and ready for this weekend. So for our listeners, when you hear this, um, it'll be 2 days away from the fight.
Yeah, this coming Saturday night.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun experience for you. I'll be interested in having you reflect back on the journey and just the emotions that go through it. It's definitely one of the things I remember fondly in my time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to share that as well. So thanks for everything you've done personally to help get me prepared. I feel more prepared than ever, and I'm just really excited to go out there and have a great time.
Yeah, I think that's the key to performing well, is just being relaxed and realizing you get to do this. You don't have to do it, and just enjoy that moment.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt.
Are you still stuck on that same song you had me listen to for your entrance song, or did you change it?
The instrumental one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm doing that one.
All right, for sure.
Dun.
Well, it's just like I told you. You wait till the exact bass drop or the beat that you want to walk out, because they can't start the show without you. So enjoy every moment of it.
Yeah, well, you'll be walking out there with me, so.
Yeah, I'll get to be behind you, man. It's your time to shine, buddy.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, I'm excited about this episode to talk a little bit about judgment. But before we do, let's talk real quick and just touch on last week's purposeful practice. I know we sent out a T-shirt to one of our community members. So good job, guys, on getting your purposeful practice in. That is the most valuable piece of this podcast, is when you can really dig deep on some of these topics and have some actual self-reflection as opposed to just listening. We can always get value from listening, but actually taking the time to practice on some of these topics is really good. So last week's episode was Jack of all trades, master of none. How did your purposeful practice go for that, Jared?
And I'll be honest, between running with Trey to his wrestling tournament and then getting sick, man, I feel like I've mastered nothing. I literally laid in bed all day yesterday. So I think for me, I've just been struggling getting back into routine. You know what I mean? Coming off the holidays and then getting sick right away, I think just kind of throws everything off. So I'm kind of excited to get over this hump and get back to my normal productive days.
Definitely. Definitely, man. And I think that kind of shows what is a top priority for you, and that's your health. You know, feeling good when you're sick, everything else kind of takes it back for you. So it's definitely something that you have mastered in your life, is being healthy, being fit, being capable to perform. So kudos to that. For me, kind of slow. I was sick this past weekend, had the fight, so didn't really have any opportunity to identify exactly what my top two overall priorities are. But I would say, just thinking about it right now, is health and relationships. And I think right now, things come in season. Sometimes we have things that are more time sensitive than others. Right now, my top priority is the fight. Obviously, I'm getting in a cage with somebody here in 3 days, and that takes top priority. Even though I have a lot of other things going on, it's time sensitive. It's a goal that I set. It ties into health, right? I love taking care of my health, and martial arts, fitness, sports, all these things under that umbrella. So definitely things I want to master is health and relationships. I always want to be feeling my best, feeling good, and I always want to have an amazing circle around me that inspires me, that loves me, that I feel good, positive energy from. And I would say that health and relationships will always be in my top things I'm looking to master.
Yeah, I
So
think those are Those are the ones that truly last with you throughout your life. If you have your health and your ability to move yourself, you can always find things to do to entertain yourself. That's probably the scariest thing to me. And when I'm sick, is just losing that movement, and the ability to just do what I want to do. So I definitely, it's weird. You don't take your health for granted until you're sick. You know what I mean? And they're like, oh gosh, I just want to get out of bed and go do stuff. So it's a good reminder. We're human and we're gonna have ups and downs, but yeah, taking care of yourself on a daily is a huge piece.
Huge, man. Being sick is a great reminder. I was writing in my gratitude journal how I was grateful to be able to breathe through my nostrils, man. Because some of those evenings I would wake up, my throat was so dry because I couldn't breathe through my nose. And it's just like, whoa, like it is such so fortunate. And I think that might tie in a little bit with your big goal this year of creating more space. Sometimes it's the body's way of telling us, hey, you need to slow down, you need to
And I
rest.
think that could have exactly been why this cold's lingered. I think I was telling you from December 19th to like January 9th, I was only home for 4 days in that whole time in that stretch, which is abnormal for me. That's a pretty heavy schedule, but I think maybe that's why that's hung on is I have been pushing hard, and yeah, it's just a reminder to slow down and take care of yourself.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, let's dive in to today's episode. I think this is really applicable to anybody's life, and I'm really excited to hear what your thoughts are, Jared. So, first question I have for you about judgment is how do you define judgment? Judgment of others. That word I hear thrown around a lot. What does it judging or judgment mean to you?
And that's interesting, because there's so many different connotations for it, and there's so many different to ways it applies in life. Judging without experience. Like you don't know, but you're making opinions, you're forming opinions without ever having experience. I think is very dangerous for people. However, I think if you're making decisions based off of your experiences, those are some of the things that can quite honestly save your life. You know what I mean? So what do I mean by that is, let's say you just grow up in a certain area and you're taught not to like a certain group of people. I mean, you've never interacted with a group of people, whether they're from a different nationality, different religion, race, whatever the case may be, just however your upbringing was, you were taught that whatever they believe is wrong, right? And you're not supposed to enjoy them, don't be around them. Well, you're taught that, but you have no experience, right? So you're literally just judging them based on what you're taught, which I think is incredibly dangerous, right? I think that's how we get some of the big, high level, crimes and issues that we have in some of the world. The big problems is when people are making these judgments with no real experience, just based on what they were told by other people. Um, but on the flip side, I think if you have experience and you make judgments, so saying, so now instead of that first scenario, now let's um, say you're a young lady and you're going to get gas in your car and it's late at night and you're pulling into a 7-Eleven and there's 10 or 15 late teen, early 20s aged males hanging around the gas pumps. I don't care what color they are, how they're dressed. I don't care any of that. Your experience then says, okay, that might not be the crowd to go into by myself as a young female late at night, convenience stores, a situation. So I think judging and those two situations, one is incredibly dangerous and wrong, and I think the other is natural and a safety mechanism. So I don't think the term right now everybody's like, oh, you judge. Everybody judges, and everybody that says they don't judge is lying about judging.
Yeah,
But
you have to.
I think there's safe ways to judge, and I think there's very dangerous ways to judge. And to me, it comes back to, is your judgment based off of experience or just off of a belief or something you were told with no ideas? What do you think?
Mm, that's good. I think. I think you're right that there's no way that we can't judge, and I think that we have given that word judging and judgment kind of this negative connotation when really it's like, so another question is like, what's the difference between stereotyping and judging, right? That they're very similar to where our brains, we have these super computers in our skulls that have uh, that are processing so many functions at the same time to where we have to narrow things down, and we have to make assumptions, like you said, based on our experiences. And I think that the brain, a lot of things that we intake, whether consciously or subconsciously, media, music, news, former experiences, form a lot of our automatic quick type judgments or stereotypes. If I walk in to a meeting, of course I'm going to somewhat judge someone based on how they look, how they're dressed. I'm going to have a different judgment, first impression of someone that's dressed nicely, well groomed, dressed well, wearing a suit, maybe, whatever, as opposed to somebody who's really unkept, messy hair, maybe looks like he has some bedhead, raggedy clothes. I'll have different judgments. And for me, I have learned that it's unwise to really judge based on culture, religion, or even color of skin. But I think that we also do make minor judgments based on that being a piece of the equation as well. Like, what does media say? We can talk, like, for example, um there's we can just talk like white and black, right? Assumptions: white men can't jump, all black people can dance, things like that, to where there's media stuff like that, or in movies to where, like, oh, the Asian kids and the Indian kids are smart. That's all. These are all judgments and stereotypes that may have just a little bit of weight in your mind because of so much media, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a racist because you have these thoughts. Then again, you shouldn't be going around like, oh, you're Indian, so you're probably smart, or you're Chinese, so you're probably smart, or anything like that. But I think that it's important to be aware, and like you said, not jump to conclusions, but have these judgments. So I think that stereotyping and having judgments in your mind for first impression is necessary, but you should always keep an open mind with people.
Well, I think that just goes back to the second part, is being open to the experiences.
Right.
You may have, I mean, we all have preconceived notions. You go to a business meeting, you think it's going to be about one thing, it may go to another, go on a different path, right? Like, you meet somebody for the first time. When you first meet them, like, the guy might be in a suit and a tie and well dressed. So you go up to meet him, you may give him the benefit of the doubt. It turns out he may be a flaming asshole, right? Well, your experience with him says that's probably who he is to you. It doesn't matter how he's dressed now, right? And I think too many times we don't ever get past that initial judgment. I think that's where people get themselves in trouble, is they cast judgment and shut themselves off from experience. And I'll be honest with you, that's one of the reasons I wanted to leave police work is judging. I mean, it just truly is. You are looking for the people that are doing abnormal behaviors. You're constantly in that mode. Even when you're talking to people, you're constantly evaluating, okay, are they telling me the truth? Are they lying to me? Like, what's the motivation for their why are we here? Um, and I wanted different. I wanted to be able to interact with people and be more open. And law enforcement, you have to be a little guarded because you have a lot of safety stuff going on there. You have a bunch of legal factors going into how you converse with people. So for me, that was one of the reasons I wanted to change, is I wanted to honestly be a little less judging and to be a little more open to different experiences.
Do you think it's possible to be a person who doesn't judge?
No, impossible.
Possible.
Impossible. I don't know, man. Like, who, I've never met anybody that doesn't judge, because I do think, uh, I don't know. I guess maybe there's somebody out there that doesn't judge, but in the way I've lived life and who I've interacted with, they're probably the people that are easily victimized by a lot of other people that they should have known better, right? Because a lot of your judging comes from your innate ability to detect danger and sense fear, right? Like you go in somewhere and the hair on the back of your neck stands up. You're like, oh, I don't really feel safe, and you decide to get out of there. Was that judging? Maybe. Maybe you're judging the environment. Maybe you're judging the people you're around. But whatever it was, your body's reaction said you were unsafe, and you listened to it and you left. Where a lot of people, non-judgmental people will have that same sense and they'll still continue to go in because they're afraid they're going to offend somebody,
Hmm.
right? I mean, the only people I can think of in my experience that proclaim to never judge anything, quite honestly, to me, lived a very naive approach to life, right? That everybody's up to good, everybody's gonna do everything. The reality is it's a cruel world at times. There's good and there's evil. And to me, your ability to judge and get out of situations or judge and put yourself into situations is a lot of how you navigate that.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you're always going to have stereotypical or judging thoughts arise, even if you're, a monk who has been working and meditating on like practicing non-judgment and seeing people as just a, blank canvas. I think, like we said, any type of thoughts that you've had in the past, your brain will still have those, to where if the person's dressed a certain way or a certain religion or culture, you may have like, okay, he might be this because he's dressed like this, or the culture, whatever. But you don't have to make decisions based on some of these arising thoughts, right? You can still kind of have an open heart and an open mind towards this person. I think the worst type of judgment we do is categorize people as a whole because of their race or because of their religion or culture or political affiliation, to where like, oh, that person's a Democrat, well, they're going to be like this and that because they're a Democrat, and that's it. And making those kind of one-off judgments. I had the privilege of giving the I Have a Dream Martin Luther King speech on MLK Day, and it was really surprising how those words are still very applicable today. I feel very fortunate that you and we have very uh, developed circles, in that the people that we surround ourselves with are not that low level of thinkers to categorize people in categories. But I know that people out there exist that are like, oh well, you're Arab, so that means like you're a terrorist and you believe in Islam and killing Americans, or you're black, so that means you believe in this, or you're white. And watching some of those videos and reciting some of Dr. King's words, it was like, wow, like there's actually people still to this day that make such deep judgments about others just because their skin color. And it's like, oh my God, like that's baffling to me. How do you think we can raise some of our people who are still in this like really low, um what I want to call it, low frequency? They're obviously making judgments at a really kind of low level of human being. How do you think we can raise that to where people don't make these coverall judgments
I
anymore?
think it's interesting you said you think it's I'm paraphrasing, I hope I get it right. You said it's most dangerous people that judge others based off like skin color, religion, where they're from. But I'm not sure I agree with that, and here's why. I think the most dangerous people are the ones that judge themselves poorly day in and day out. Because that to me sets the recipe for all the other judgment, right? Like, think about it. If I'm happy with who I am and I'm secure in who I am, and I accept me and I allow myself to make mistakes and move forward, then a lot of times I'm able to do that with you, right? and
Mm,
and if I'm open to learning from relationships and not judging, okay, the person today that's wearing a suit and tie, he's gonna treat me like the car salesman that I didn't have a good experience with 2 weeks ago, right? Instead of making judgments, okay, you're wearing a suit and tie and you're selling me something, it's gonna be a bad experience. I'm open to new experiences. I think then you're open, right? And you're making judges based off experience, but you're not carte blanche judges, carte blanche just judging everybody because to me, you hit it on the head. Low frequency. If you look at the, whatever group you want to look at that advocates hate against anybody else, what's their number one form of keeping people in that group? It's controlling information, right? It's controlling the information they feed. This group is evil. This group is evil. This group is evil. Which to me, I think is makes the most dangerous judgment you have is a judgment that limits you to the only knowing what you already know and not being open to learning and experiencing all the other stuff. So I think how do we move past this the negative form of judgment and the hate that comes that's associated with that. I think we really got to reflect on ourselves and get people to realize that you don't have to stay where you are. But I think a lot of people that to me, in my mind's eye, when I see just mass hate, they don't know better, right? They've literally bought into what they've been told by these people. Their information they're getting is very skewed, very limited, and it's sad. I think if we can get them to judge themselves differently, then they would start to judge others differently.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I don't know who said this, but there's a quote out there that talks along the lines of your capacity to love others is 100% dependent on your capacity to love yourself.
For sure.
And
Sorry to jump in real quick.
yeah,
Tell me the last person that advocates hate against any other group that seems genuinely happy. You know what I mean? It's coming from a place of anger. It's coming from a place of just hate. Like they're judged. They're so closed off to everything else. And I think we truly want to change some of that aspect in life. The change lies within each person, getting them to realize what they could be instead of what they're being told to be.
mm, yeah, yeah. No, I think that's absolutely right. It
Because your
starts with you.
quote is right. Your
Yeah.
quote is absolutely right. I can't possibly give the love I want to give to other people if I don't first love myself. And if I'm hating on myself, if I'm beating myself up, if I'm constantly judging myself for every mistake, every poor decision, everything that didn't go right, well, then it's easy to start judging you on all of your mistakes and all the things you're doing and judge them and judge them. When the reality is, if I accept myself, then I can start accepting you.
Mm,
But
yeah.
I think too many times we look at judgment as an external thing, not internal. And I
Hmm.
truly believe we all judge, but I think the boundary between healthy judgment and hateful judgment is how you truly feel about yourself.
Yeah. And it's funny too that so many things we do is anticipating what kind of judgment we're going to receive, right? Social
Yeah,
media. We're posting something to share with the world, anticipating judgment. Like me, like this mustache that I'm wearing, the fact that I comb my hair and how I dress today. Like I'm anticipating that I'm giving off a message. Like I know that this is a double-edged sword here. I've gotten it before to where some people look at this and be like, "Oh, that guy's fucking douchebag, totally into himself with a mustache like that." And then other people are like, "Dude, like for you to wear a mustache like that, you must have some confidence." Da, 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 da. And that is a part of it. When I decided to wear this, I thought it's going to differentiate me. I'm going to stand out in a brand new industry. I want to be a business owner. It'll force me to show up. Wearing a mustache like this, you can't not show up. And I'm anticipating that judgment. And same thing too, there are some times when I see someone that's really well dressed, well groomed, to where sometimes I can hear those same judging thoughts of like, who does this guy think he is? And then I'll kind of come back to myself, and I'm like, wait, why am I feeling that? And it's always because of what I'm thinking of myself, how I'm feeling within during those times. And of course we have ups and downs, but I have seen in my experience that when you're really happy and loving to yourself, not judging, but disciplined, to where you're still disciplined with what you're doing, that everyone else around you seems awesome, seems happy, seems great, and you're not judging of them, even if uh, they're not hitting on all of your favorite types of characteristics that people have. You're not judging of that. So absolutely, I think it starts with you. I think you hit it on the head there.
yeah, you're more tolerant.
Hmm.
right? Because think about this, and the more we do this and the more we learn, Ollie, I think it always goes back to how you treat yourself and how you view yourself is exactly how you're going to treat others and how you're going to view others. So
Hmm.
if you see yourself as extremely limited, a constant victim of the world, everything's wrong, nothing's going to go right for you, you don't deserve it, it's easy to portray that on everybody else.
Hmm. Yeah. I really like how you are you are once you gather enough information, I think you're quick to make a judgment, of a type of person. Hey, I see how they perform at practice, I see how they are, and this is what they've shown me. But I've realized that you only do that when you've gathered information. Like with me, you approached me for the podcast because you saw how I was in the group, you saw how I showed up and how I was a team, and you saw those things. So walk me through a little bit about how do you make assumptions or judgments of specific people, maybe in your family, in your inner circle, or even maybe some recent new acquaintances that you did. What's kind of that process for you of like, oh, I saw this, so now I think this.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think for me, the biggest focus is on action, right? Because everybody has, well, not everybody, but a lot of people are very good with their words. They have a great sales pitch. You and I are in kind of a space where we're very public with what we do. So there's no shortage of people that kind of want to work alongside of us, come on the whatever the case may be. But so their sales pitch is good, but the biggest thing I look for is what is your action steps? Like, what does your follow up look like? Are you, you come to the gym, and you say you want to be a UFC champion, but then you come to practice, once every 2 weeks, and you can barely make it. Well, your actions aren't in line with what you told me, and I think that's where kind of some of the other stuff we've talked about since the new year. That's where I've gotten better is acting on that quicker and not letting that linger as long. Um, but I'm also not afraid to have those critical conversations. If you told me you wanted something and then we're starting to work towards it, and then your actions aren't in line with going to get you there, I have no problem sharing that with people, um,
Hmm.
because I think too many times we just shy away from that and we kind of let people flounder. And when they don't need to, maybe they don't realize that this is what they said, but they're not following through, or maybe they got sidetracked, or maybe something came up in their life that before I probably wouldn't have paid attention to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's great. Actions speak louder than words, and that's what we should. That's what we should base our judgments on, right? So I think a lot of us have general judgments of the world, of people, of our jobs, of society, things like that. To where you always hear people saying things like, "Oh, well." People suck, or I hate people, or people are crazy. These kind of general judgments of people. um, I personally, I like to think that, and I think we had an episode on this of how everyone has the capacity for greatness. Everyone has greatness within, but you have to do the work to bring it out. I like to think that everybody is like in the Bible and the Quran, that everyone is made in the essence of God, right? Everyone has divinity within them, and I like to think of it as a challenge of how can I find that? Maybe some people haven't done enough work, but maybe I can find a little glimpse of greatness. And I truly try and approach everybody that I interact with in the same manner, whether it's a homeless dude or a billionaire who might invest in me. Um, I try and approach people with respect, with love, and with an open mind and an open heart. However, I will still make judgments, like you said, based on actions, and of course based on appearance, what I can gather right away, appearance, your LinkedIn page, what you want me to judge you on, right? What you have out there. But I truly believe that, and I haven't always been this way. I've been a bully. I was a bully. I used to be very insecure. Talk to I've experienced a lot of racism in my life. I've thought, I have categorized people. And all that, but I think I've worked on myself a lot, and I've really worked on developing this mentality, and now I see that it's served me the best than any other mentality I've had of people of trying to find greatness within them. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on, because I think this is great. It's been working well for me, but what do you think are maybe some general judgments that we can have that can really serve in our favor to help us live our most purposeful life? Whether it's something like for me, if I had to summarize how I try and live my life, is um, look for the greatness in everyone you encounter, kind of thing, right? But also, don't be an idiot. um, you use your intuition. You're going to make
Yeah.
stereotypes. You're going to make judgments. What are your thoughts on that?
I think first and foremost is practice forgiving yourself, right? I mean,
Oh,
practice
nice.
forgiving yourself, because then that will put you, then that allows you to forgive others. If you're constantly judging negatively on yourself, then it's easy to stay in that space. So I think that'd be the first thing I would say is, give yourself room for those mistakes and for that growth. Um, and then judge based on your experience, right? Like if you had a bad experience, you don't have to repeat that same activity 20 times and know it was a bad experience. You tried it, it didn't work out. It's okay to now say, okay, I don't enjoy that, and go in a different direction. I think sometimes we get so tied into staying on the same path we've been on because we think that's where we're supposed to be, that we're not enjoying it. It's not providing us happiness, but we're afraid to be judged by others if we abandon that path, if we go in a different direction. So balance that, right? Like, judge yourself, or be forgiving with yourself, and then don't put so much weight in what everybody else thinks about you. Because the reality is, most people are so busy with their worried about their own judgments and their own life that no, they're not thinking about other people anyhow.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I love how you keep coming back to it. Starts with you, because it does. It
Well, it
really
has to,
does. Once we can, yeah, yeah, we build that relationship. That you're saying that now that my wheels are kind of turning. Why did I? How did I get to this place of for the most part, trying to look for the greatness in others, and treating everyone with respect, is because I finally got to a place where I really love myself. And of
right?
course I care what other people think, but I
We
care
all do.
way less
Yeah.
than I did
Well,
when it at a certain point it used to have way more weight.
and I think true. The backside to what you just said is 100% accurate, and that's exactly where we want to get, is where we're accepting ourselves and loving ourselves because we can share it. But I think what also you said is a point people should pick up on is you control who's around you, right? So if the people that are around you aren't in that same frame of mind, if they're all hate and judgment and the world's out to get me, well, you don't have to keep them close to you all the time. Doesn't mean they're a
Mhm.
bad person. It doesn't mean they don't have value. It just means you don't have to stay in that circle. And I think, to our younger listeners in high school and stuff, one of the best things about getting out of high school and moving past that stage is you're not just controlled in who's in your circle all day, every day, because they happen to go to the same school as you. You get to
Right.
start picking who gets to spend time with me and who doesn't. And I think we don't do a good enough job at times preparing our teenagers for that, for helping them know, okay, high school is this, but when you get out, you get to choose who's in your circle and who you listen to and who you give weight of influence to.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we truly start to thrive, is when we take ownership of who we let into our inner circle, who we let into our minds and our hearts on a daily basis. Um,
It's huge.
but if you look, like, just off the top of my head, if I had to think of one group that advocates hate, at least in my lifetime, I'd always say the KKK. I mean, it's just that whatever reason, that's where my image goes. And you look at what they talk about, and I don't see any growth from them. I don't see any, like, hate this group over here, but love us because we're teaching and we're growing and we're expanding our knowledge, right? That's never the message. The message is hate these people because they're going to take all you have. Hate these people because, right? And how do we get, going back to one of your original questions, how do we stop people from buying into that? I think the only way you even buy into that to begin with is you're very unhappy with yourself and you're looking for somebody to blame for why you're not where you want to be, instead of owning it and reflecting on your true happiness within.
Mm. So let me ask you this. So people out there that say things like, "Oh, people are always out there to get you," or people are always trying to pull a fast one on you. Would you go as far as to say it's likely or probable that the people who say that are those type of people who try to pull a fast one on others and are always out there to get you?
I don't know. I don't think it falls far from the tree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you just literally said that. I could think of one guy at the gym that is a hustler. Yeah, super good dude. But he's always hustling nickel and dimes, and he's like, everybody's out to get me, nickel. And when you said that, he immediately popped in my head because he's the first one to say everybody's out to get him, but he's constantly haggling for nickels and dimes.
Right. No,
I don't
and
know. That's true.
it becomes your reality, right? It's like I forgot what it's called. Some effect of you only notice when you're aware, right? Like you bought a King Ranch. I'm
Right.
sure you see so many more King Ranches on the road now.
I didn't even know that was a vehicle, to be honest with you.
Yeah, now you're like King Ranches, King Ranches, to where you're aware, to where when your mentality is like, oh, everyone's out to get me, everyone's out to get me. Guess what? These people are gonna rise. You're gonna attract yourself to these people who are out there to get you.
Yeah.
The universe, God, whatever you want to call it, has its way of conspiring to do that. So I think what we can do is improve our general judgments, improve our overall judgments to be something that we want. Because at the deepest level, if we're saying everyone's out there to get me, maybe in a sense, for whatever weird reason, we have some twisted things up inside of ourselves that kind of wants that, maybe because
Or we're doing that to other people.
or doing that to other people.
We're
Yeah.
victimizing people around us.
Hmm.
And I think that's huge. Is everybody judges, and you're always going to have judgment. To me, if you're judging based off of your experience, so you don't put yourself back in places that cause negative experience, that's smart. If you're judging simply because of what you've been told, what you've read about, what you were taught as a young kid with no experience, that's very dangerous. And I think there's two distinct ways to be a judgmental person. And I don't believe that judging is necessarily a bad thing for you. I think it has very good values to keep you safe at times, and to allow you to move forward because you had an experience, you tried something, it wasn't quite what you thought. You don't have to keep doing it. Um, but it's okay to judge. And I think, you know, walking around telling people, "Oh, I don't judge," and I can't tell you how many times I've heard that where somebody will say something, the first response from somebody else in the conversation is, "Well, I don't judge." Well, you just judge me judging,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, let's quit with the we don't judge. Like, how do we judge? Do we judge off our experience and knowledge, or just off of what other people have told us? One's
Right.
very dangerous, and the other is smart.
Right. Love it.
Right? Like, think about, like, how did this podcast evolve? How's it continue? We make judgments and decisions based off what's working, what hasn't worked.
Hmm.
It would be foolish to continue down the same path with the On Perot's podcast, knowing it wasn't working.
Yeah.
So you have to make a judgment, but that judgment was based off what? Our experience and actions.
Hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But you see what I'm saying? I think too many times we get confused on which kind of judging is good and what is bad. And ultimately, though, we got to get back to ourselves with it.
Amen.
Because I think you don't even get put into that dangerous judging if you're truly at peace with yourself.
I agree.
You know, We'll have to share the On Pros podcast story at some point.
Yeah, that's a funny one.
Dude, that's still hilarious. Every time I think about that, I just start laughing. Even on a day where I'm sick and my man Ali drags me out for a podcast, I still
Got to
chuckle.
get it done. Got to
Ah,
get it
you're the
done.
man, Ali. That's why I love you, my friend.
Love you too. Love you too.
Ready to give
Well,
these
good
guys some
stuff.
purposeful practice?
Yeah, I think we're there. So let's get it in, guys. Again, this is the biggest differentiator of the On Purpose podcast is there is purposeful practice every week for you to live out your most purposeful life in a more efficient way. The practice for this week, step 1 is to take inventory of what judgments you make about people in general right now. You could be the type of person that's like everybody loves me and everybody's carefree or everybody's out to get me. Take inventory of what those judgments are. Part 2, take inventory of what judgments you make about specific people in your life, like your immediate family, your closest friends. What are the judgments you have about these people and why? And then part 3 is how do these judgments serve you now and how can you improve? And then, of course, the most important piece is email your practice to us at onpurpose.official@gmail.com. And we'd love to take an even deeper dive with you guys.
Thank you all for sticking with us even when we're not feeling our best. For me today, Ali, best of battle to you this Saturday, my friend. I know you're going to do fantastic. Those of you that are listening to this podcast, I think Ali's fight will be streaming live on Sparta Combat League's Facebook page. So tune into that Saturday night at 7. And remember, team, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. Have a great rest of your week.